And first of all, what do you guys actually do?
We install, maintain everything on the wind turbines, from restoring, rebuilding blades, rebuilding the gearboxes, the generators, anything that goes out on that turbine we bring back to this shop that we're in right now and refurbish it and then put it back in the wind turbines. We have 250 turbines that we have contracts under and maintain a wind farm in Hawaii up in the 𝗪𝗓𝗡, the North Point. And we have 2 Northern Power System wind turbines on the big island of Hawaii also. And we maintain wind turbines from Alaska to South Korea, from Nantucket to Hawaii.
So you have all the wind turbines that you normally would take care of under like a contract situation.
Yes.
But then you're also an emergency kind of guy also, that they will call you from anywhere around the world to come fix a problem.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So how did you first get introduced and start understanding how the Infinity Lubes work?
I ran into Howie at one time is when our partner that we had for Sure Energy had a big manufacturing company, and in the manufacturing company he was bringing forth his product for the lube, and it was working real well. So I sat in on a demonstration, and so I said, well, for our wind turbines, I want this to start going into all of our wind turbines. And so since 2010, we've been installing this turbine, and we've not had one bearing failure that we've installed on Howie's turbines.
You know, what was the weird thing was, I remember what you asked me. You said, have you ever applied this product on a wind turbine? I said, never, ever. You'll be the first. We could have never anticipated that treating a wind turbine with this product could initiate kilowatts at 5-mile-an-hour winds, where it takes conventional lubricants 15-mile-an-hour winds to even produce even a lower kilowatt. So right there just shows you how metallurgical the innovation is, because you're releasing the energy. And the cool thing of it is, now with all this testing, all these years, from Hawaii to Alaska, and everything back and forth, even all the way down to our test that we did with the dry ice running at, oh my gosh, you're talking negative 200 degrees there.
How was that test?
Well,
actually what we did in the test was we filled the reservoir up after we treated the interfaces, the contacting interfaces of the bearing and the race, and we filled it up with water, and then we put dry ice in there, which presents, nitric oxide. And we sit right there with the temperature gauges and showed it. It was busting out below 200 below zero. So what it tells is, just like with all the wind turbines that froze up in Texas, if it didn't freeze up on that test, it sure ain't gonna freeze up. There, of course, you're doing the wind turbines, and it's 68 below zero.
correct, in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same technology. So
why don't we talk a little bit about where you actually use the product, and what all the different applications that you utilize in it? Because one of the things you mentioned to me is that you pretty much use it everywhere.
We use it everywhere, correct. In the gearboxes, we'll pour the 25 into the gearbox, only just a little bit compared to, and we've not had a bearing failure in our gearboxes. We've also put it into our bearings, our blade bearings, so that when their blades are moving back and forth. And so we've been running 12, 13 years on our megawatt units, and no bearing failures on our blades. And then also with the yaw gearboxes, we poured that in there. The only thing we've had go wrong is a seal in one of them, but no failures of gears or bearings going bad into our yaw gearboxes.
And what conventionally would you see under normal circumstances without
in
using
12
it?
years we would have had blade failure bearings, so we would have had to take in the whole blades down to the ground, pull them off, put all new bearings in, and put them back on, and that's very, very expensive doing that, because just the yaw, our yaw is 42,000 pounds on our blades and that to bring down. So we have to get in a real big, a 550-ton crane to lift them down from 250 feet.
So in the 12 years you've been utilizing this technology, you never lost a bearing.
Never lost a bearing yet. I better knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how good, you know, I believe in the product. And as you well seen out in our shop, that we, you know, now we're buying the Infinity lube from you, and I believe in it that much. We put our Infinity lube. You probably want to. And we'll pour that into this bucket, and then we mix. We have here's our mixer that we mix, and we'll pour LFE. We'll put the LFE. Pour it in there. We mix it in, and that. In turn, we only do this a couple of times, and it adds much more length to our bearing.
And so you understand why he's doing that?
Yeah.
He's overbasing from what we actually do in the manufacturing.
Right.
But you got to remember, these applications are critical.
Yeah.
They're in the worst possible applications we
Yeah.
get. Environmentals of insanity. So therefore, he overcharges the grease with the LFE.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Explain a little bit real quick about the safety.
oh, the safety part of this is it's all biodegradable. So there's absolutely no reason to get excited about a chemical spill or anything. There's none of that. This is actually food. You can apply this into your food product bearings and that, because it's all bio natural substance.
Absolutely.
So,
You know, anytime that you send an employee up to service a wind turbine in the worst wind from the most beautiful day, that's danger. That's potential liability. So, with the product, which is, it's kind of taught you and I both over the years, once you do that, you don't have to send them up there near as often. Even the grease is showing that.
correct.
I remember one time I had in this crazy notion I wanted to go up in the top of a wind turbine. I don't think I want to do it again, but I can see and understand how when you lose the lubricity from a wind turbine, they catch on fire. They burn down. And you know, for that yaw gear and everything to turn that, I think that's some of the most incredible stuff, you know, from a mechanical engineering perspective. Thinking about that and then knowing about how the product works, the yaw gear is to me is one of the most incredible things about how it faces.
We actually do a purge bearing, and I sell our product, the Infinity Lube, now to those customers, and do a purge bearing and put all Infinity Lube completely in there.
That's huge.
That's a huge thing, because after we do that, if it runs every day that it runs for up to about 5 days of continuous running, that thing will actually, the amperage to get the blades going, we're down to 3 to 4 mile an hour sometimes, and it's still, the blades are doing 26 RPMs, and it's putting maybe a half a watt positive into the grid, where before it was stopped.
Wow.
It would stop if the wind was that low.
That just shows you the frictionless contact interfaces.
Yes.
And the most important thing of it is the frictionless, corrosionless contact interfaces.
And especially in Hawaii.
Especially in Hawaii.
Or on Nantucket.
Yeah.
Anything on
Gulf of Mexico.
Gulf of Mexico, and
Yeah.
we have one at Seadrift, Texas, that we purged. We haven't had a bearing failure yet with the turbines that we've maintained.
Yeah.
And there's been 2 or 3 other bearing failures that never used the lube.
So you also mentioned the fact that you were involved with some turbines that had been shut down for a couple of years.
Yes.
That you reconstituted.
Yes, and those customers finally called me, said our turbine's making a noise, and so we finally signed a PO with that, and I told them it'd be $1,700 for me to go up there and do that, but I don't want to be paid for 90 days. And if it doesn't work, then I'll give them a credit for a brand new generator to be able to install on there so we can put new bearings in. To this date, right now, which has been about 4 or 5 months ago, the thing's running better than it ever ran.
Just running the LFE.
Just running the LFE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've told thousands of people. Some people believe me. Some people.
You know, probably a lot of people will be asking, why, what is that noise that it's making? Well, it's actual contacts of the interfaces. That's where the noise comes from. That's where the vibration starts, because you got metal on metal.
Right.
So no matter how much you lubricate it from a conventional lubricant, it will quiet a little bit. But then the next thing you know, you start exceeding the lubrication regimes and you go back to metal. So that's where we take over. And it goes in there, and that's the reason that it starts.
Well, I think
back.
I've seen some data, haven't I, that you've done as far as vibration goes?
Vibration, yes.
And what does that
we did
show?
one quite a while ago,
Yeah,
and it quieted it right down
and maintains it.
and maintains it.
That's really the key thing.
Yes.
You know, sustainability, if there's one thing I've seen about the epidemic, everyone has always talked about sustainability. Well, now, due to the disruption in supply chains, the word sustainability is getting real serious.
Correct.
Because you can't just up and just get it overnight anymore. Sometimes you can't get it in months and months and months. So, if you look at the sustainabilities, just like what he said, sustainabilities in the wind turbines. Been doing this now for 12, 13 years. There's no bearings has been lost.
Well, I think along those lines is that also the whole green thing. When people use the word sustainability, you know, in cahoots with green
Correct.
products, most people can go with one ear, not the other.
That's right.
Sustainability and green. Well, sustainability really means sustain and keep stuff running longer and keep stuff running more efficiently. It's not just one aspect. There's like 10 different aspects of sustainability, but the biggest thing is keeping your stuff running, right? And keep it running at an efficient rate.
Yes.
So you don't have to replace it, and it also, you know, brings you more. I mean, you've proven just with windmills that, you know, you need less wind.
Correct.
So it's more efficient and gives you more energy in
The
return.
only people that I know that do not like this product is they're called Turbine bearing, because they don't get to replace the bearings anymore.
I would imagine that would be true for any bearing company.
Any bearing
yeah,
company,
absolutely.
you know, because
Absolutely.
we just took their business away from them. Not saying that it won't fail on this product, but we've never had a failure yet. You know, everything's due to fail, but why can't we prolong it another 10 years?
Right.
You know, from a preventative maintenance superintendent's point of view, having been in the industry, not just wind turbines, but heavy industries, the circle of renewable green and sustainability performance has never been closed. Well, the Infinity LFE closed that circle. So, therefore, there's no need for the utilization of toxic petroleums. That's where our education and teaching goes in, because when that circle has been closed, most people still they don't understand that. That's the reason we say try it, just like with you.
Right.
We actually met in 2009, and I remember you took almost a year, maybe a longer, before you ever said,
Let's try it.
let's try it. Yeah, so we worked hard on that
Yes.
for a year. And how many tips did I come up and do the presentation and we test?
4 or 5 times.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
You know, you talked about using the product, the LFV in particular, liquid
Yes.
friction eliminator.
Yes.
Putting it into the gear, the gear oils and so forth, right?
Yes.
But you also use the grease, and we talked a little bit about how how does that work with, like, if someone says, well, I got these automatic greasing machines, you know, how does the grease work with that? I mean,
Oh, the nice part about this grease product and frictionless, it'll mix with any oil or grease that isn't clay based.
Right.
So it'll go. So no matter what, if you're mixing it in with an existing Fuchs or existing Shell grease, you can mix the frictionless into that, and it will work just as well with that. But the main product is everything's green on this side of what Howie is produced, so we don't have to worry about is this gonna, if this drips to the ground, is this gonna damage the earth? Absolutely not.
how does it perform on in regards to how much of it you use versus the other stuff?
Oh, actually, once you apply it, you can start greasing less, and so you're saving a lot of money just by doing that product.
And see, your average preventative maintenance guy, no offense to them, because that's what my life was. They think more is better.
And then you blow seals out.
And then you blow out seals.
So now we're having a problem with actually the generators shorting out because the seals, those people put too much grease in, seal in the very back and the inside blew out. So now the grease is just dumping into that housing and shorting out a winding.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We have 2 of them right now.
Interesting. So when you come into a new customer in particular, you almost have to like kind of educate them as to what you're doing because it's very different than what
Actually, if
they're
they
used to.
sign the contract, they don't even know what product I'm putting in. It's just going to be a better running machine.
See, that's
And
excellent right there.
Yeah.
And that's what they just have total faith in our company, and
Right.
and we'll give them the best products that I research.
Right.
This technology's kind of really helped us both
Yes.
into a lot of different directions.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. You know, this is great.
Yes.
And this is just another step in getting the word out. Because our biggest challenge really is just getting the word out
Yes.
and letting people know what this does. And then they're going to say, "Oh no, that stuff doesn't work," you know. But I'm willing to give it a shot.
Correct.
And that's when they find out.
Yes.
Right. So because that's what you did 12 years ago.
Yes.
So.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
John, thank
So,
you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Okay.